this court just denied Karen Reed's request to have 2 charges against her dropped. The SJC is the state's highest court, so the state's version of the Supreme Court. They handle appeals that go all the way up to the SJC. In this case, after Karen Reed's first trial ended in a mistrial due to a hung jury, multiple jurors had reached out to both the defense and the Commonwealth explaining what had happened and explaining that behind closed doors, jurors say they had agreed to acquit Karen Reed, so find her not guilty, on 2 charges, second-degree murder and leaving the scene of personal injury or death. So essentially, after trial ended, Karen Reed's attorneys moved to dismiss those 2 charges against her, asking the trial judge, Judge Beverly Canoni, to dismiss those charges, essentially claiming that jurors behind closed doors had found Karen Reed not guilty and that therefore it would be unfair to try her again on those 2 charges. Judge Canoni denied that motion, saying that there was no verdict reached, not even a split verdict in this case, and so she couldn't change the outcome. Well, defense attorneys appealed her decision all the way up to the SJC. That's how we get here today. There were arguments back in November, and the decision just came down. It's a 35-page decision. It's really exhaustive. It goes through all of the arguments. And the way the court essentially frames the situation is they say they're deciding whether what jurors say happened privately can essentially trump what jurors said publicly. So if jurors say they rendered a verdict in private, can that overshadow not rendering a verdict publicly? And the SJC said no. Procedurally, something is only a verdict when the jury reads it openly and publicly, and that did not happen in this case. The SJC also talked about what happened when the mistrial was declared, and they pointed out the fact that Karen Reed's defense attorneys at the time did not object and did not argue against a mistrial as it was happening. In fact, they actually had argued in the direction of a mistrial, encouraging the judge to read certain instructions to the jury that moves them in the direction of a mistrial when they're at an impasse or when they're hung. The SJC also said that allowing these charges to be dismissed or allowing jurors to come back and discuss what had happened during deliberations months after a trial would be a slippery slope for future cases, because generally the presumption is that once a jury has been dismissed of their duty, they're done. From a legal analyst perspective, I've spoken with many attorneys, and this outcome is what they expected in this case. The SJC would have been creating new law to dismiss these 2 charges. So what does this mean going forward? It means that for Karen Reed's trial starting on April 1st, she will still be facing all 3 charges: second-degree murder, manslaughter, and leaving the scene. Karen Reed's lawyers did tell me they are considering appealing this to the federal courts, which would be the next step. A lot of news in this case today, as you can tell. It's all very interwoven, very complicated. Any questions, feel free to comment.